The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly. A victory over Huddersfield has seen the Robins retain their place at the top of the Super League, with Rovers Challenge Cup Final opponents Warrington Wolves up next. Joining me to discuss all the latest goings on down in HU9 are Robin Pod debutants Carl Varley and Max Dawson. We're also joined by Steve Till for Robins Revisited, and we answer all your questions in question time. Carl, I'll start with you, mate. Thank you so much for reaching out and wanting to come on to the Robin Pod, of course. The Robin Pod is all about giving different supporters of the Rovers an opportunity to voice their opinion, and I'm really pleased to see that you're on the Robin Pod. Of course, we've got Max who's going to come up next, but Carl, tell us about your love affair with the Robins. When did it start?
Firstly, Johno, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been a long-time watcher of this podcast. I think it's great. I've been supporting Rovers since, I'm going to show my age now, around about 1975, 76. So best part of 50 years, which means I have seen a lot of disappointment on the field in red and white. So came up through, I was at school next door to the old Craven Park, and back in the 80s, obviously, some of the older viewers might remember the fantastic team of the 80s, probably the best team in the world. And they used to come and train with us on our field. And I remember vividly Mark Broder shivering me on his back and running up and down as part of his training. And since that day, really, I just fell in love with Rovers. And as for what they're doing this season, I just think it's unbelievable. As I've just said, I've seen a lot of disappointment in the red and white. But from what's happening now, we're top of the league. We're going to be at Wembley. We're going to Vegas. I mean, what's not to like about this season? Come on, we've lost one game, which we were unlucky to lose. When I say we're top of the league, it's not like we're top of the league. Luckily, we're there on merit. We deserve to be top of that league. I think we're the best team in the league right now at this moment. Yes, Wigan beat us, but like I say, I think our defence is unbelievable. This is the best Rovers team I've ever seen since 1975.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow, that's a big statement to make, isn't it? Max, I'll tell you what, let's bring you in, because there's no way you're 50 unless you have the easiest paper round in the world. But Max, tell us about your love affair with the Robins, and when did it start?
Well, I've been Rovers through since, birth, really. It starts from there, doesn't it, really? We're either red and white or black and white. And to me, I've been brought up red and white through. I'm 23 now, and even so, we've been to Wembley, haven't we? But twice. But even so, obviously, I've not got as many years on me, but it's still mental to see where we are now compared to just 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Brilliant.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Carl, what's really important, I'll tell you what, before we talk about the Huddersfield game, what we'll talk about very soon, it's important, isn't it, to remember that with the success we're enjoying at the moment, okay, yes, we don't have the trophy to rubber seal that success, but it's important we bring supporters in who are, we can't just have supporters who've been supporting the club for 40, 30, 20 years. It's important, if this club is to grow, we need a new generation of support coming in. Now, if that's on the back of success, we shouldn't frown upon them supporters coming in. We should embrace it, because the only way is more people spending more money, more people through the turnstiles. And if it's that success that brings them into the fold, we talk about the match day experience at Craven Park, how great it is. People come literally just for that. We need them people to be in the stadium. We need them people to be watching from afar as well, because ultimately, unless we have them, this club will not grow more than what it already is.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the young people that are coming to watch, obviously they're the future of the club, aren't they? The future of the support. They're the ones that are going to be in 40, 50 years' time, like I was back in 1977, 78. They're the ones that are going to be, in 50 years' time, still supporting the Robins. And it's all revenue as well. I mean, look, we're now getting full house every week. We've got Craven Street. It's not just about the money they're paying to come and see the lads play. It's the money they're spending, the food carts, it's all revenue, the beer, everything. Not only that, you've got obviously Coldplay coming as well. You've got the stadiums being used for this, that, and the other. And I mean, Coldplay, the biggest band in the world, aren't they? Not my cup of tea, to be fair, but obviously it's going to pack it out and it's going to make a lot more money. It's all about revenue, and the revenue is what grows the club.
Yeah,
it's just such a good feel-good factor around Craven Park, and every support of every team, apart from that lot, probably will tell you that it's the best atmosphere in Super League. It's just a great place to be right now. Where else would you want to be?
Yeah, well, yeah. I tell you what, and also, it's not your fault when you're born. Is it?
Yeah.
It's not your fault if you only just started watching them whenever you started watching them. So anyway, right, Max, let's move on to that Huddersfield game because it was a funny old game, wasn't it? 34-0, 4-0 at half-time. Of course, Max, we saw a change to the starting lineup in terms of 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗄 and 𝗬𝗄𝗍 missing. Nobody expected that, although when you look at how many minutes they've played, their contribution to the Robins, especially 𝗵𝗂𝗄, I think he's played 𝗁𝗂𝗍𝗄𝗏, Mike Carter, he put a stat up about how many consecutive games he played. I think it was 40 odd. I think they did deserve that break, didn't they, at that time? And although we didn't see it, it was the right call to make.
Yeah, and players like that, you're only resting them if you need to, because they're your big name players, and they're the ones that have the impact on a game. And if you leave them out, you're leaving them out for a reason. So obviously, it's just there was obviously he's knackered, or they maybe had a little niggle here and there. So I mean, Willie Peters, you can't really fault him on anything he's done because everything he has done, he's backed it. So trust in Willie.
And I'll tell you what, Carl, I don't think Sue and 𝗵𝗂𝗀 were knackered, but I think Willie Peters is very clever and very astute at just giving the people a break at the right time. And there's no doubt if Willie Peters said to Sue and 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀, you're playing, they'd have been there straight away. But when you look at this Challenge Cup game, I think there's so much. I think they realise this is a great opportunity, and I think they rotated the squad at the right time. Of course, we saw it against Salford at Magic Weekend, Carl. It was a similar rotation in terms of just giving a few players a break. And I do think 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀 and Sue were probably the right ones. And ultimately, and this isn't any slight on them, I don't think we missed them either. And I think that's testament to the squad we've got.
Yeah, I mean, without it sounding too arrogant, I mean, what better game to rest a few players than Huddersfield at home, especially the form Huddersfield were in. I tend to disagree with you a little bit, to be fair, on the not missing 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀. Maybe not so much so, but I think we really did miss 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀. I think you could tell 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀 was missing because, let's be honest, he's like a colossal in the back line. He's been unbelievable. I used to watch. I still do. I watch a lot of the NRL. I'm a bit of an anorak. I mean, I get up at like 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning to watch it. I'm a real anorak. But anyway, I used to watch 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 a lot before I came to Rovers. And to be fair, I wasn't too. I know I could see he was a great player, but it surprised me how good he is when he came to Rovers. Maybe he didn't look as good in the NRL game, but he has been absolutely unbelievable. One of our best signings ever for me. So I do think we missed him a little bit, especially in the first half. You could see, well, obviously it was 4-0 at half time, but obviously a great move by Willie Peters to rest those two. Yeah, they have I think 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 hasn't missed a game, has he? Since he came here, I think he's played every game. And Sue, obviously, he's played massive minutes as well. And yeah, so a great move to rest them in a game where we should have won. But to be fair, 4-0 at half time, Huddersfield played really well. but they did have a lot of the players back. I think they had 3 or 4 of their top players back that had been out for a while, and I think they're going to have a few surprises in the next few weeks. Huddersfield, especially at home, I think they're going to, in a couple of weeks, when they've bedded in these players that have been out, they're going to shock a few teams. But it was strange though to me that, like, normally Rovers come out the barrel of a gun, don't they? As soon as it kicks off, they pile 10, 20 points on within the first 15 minutes. This was different. I mean, I know Huddersfield defended well, but I expected Rovers to tire, after the semi-final last week, and they didn't. And it was like a reversal of what they normally do, because they piled all the points on in the last 20 minutes, and they normally like to take the foot off the gas by then. So yeah, it's a strange game, but I think we did miss 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗲𝗏 a little bit.
Yeah, I tell you what, Max, we can't discredit Huddersfield in terms of the lineup that they put out. It was much stronger than the side that we faced when we went to their place and we played them, and obviously put them to the sword. It was a much stronger, and I think we saw that, didn't we? Because Huddersfield were so much more resilient in defence than we'd seen previously. Of course, was buoyed by a result against that lot. And to be fair, Huddersfield, they did really front up well in defence.
Yeah, I think Huddersfield probably shocked themselves at how well they was actually doing. And I think, like I say, I think Rovers were shocked as well, because sometimes they came up with a few daft errors. But yeah, you can't really knock Huddersfield, can you? It looked all right. It was just Rovers were just too good for them, weren't they? In the end.
Do you think ultimately, Carl, that Rovers were, especially in that first half, trying a bit too hard?
Yeah, I think so. They were making a lot of uncharacteristic errors. They might have been a little bit complacent, because, let's be honest, Huddersfield have been shocking all season. So there might have been a little bit of complacency, which normally with Rovers there isn't. They're normally really professional. And yeah, I think they were trying a bit too hard in that first half, because it's not like Rovers to be making errors like they were. Yeah, they weren't good in the first half. Like I say, the last 20 minutes, it just showed the class. I don't think there was ever any doubt of we were going to win the game, but just wasn't very Rovers like that first half.
No, and especially if you look at to be fair, Max, the Robins were pretty dominant in terms of the meters made. If you look at the post-contact meters, you look at the balls in their 39 plays, the ball in their 20 meters compared to their 10. And as much as Huddersfield huffed and puffed and tried to front up in defence, I when I looked at the game, even at 4-0, I was looking at going, there's no way Huddersfield are going to trouble us in terms of getting the victory, because ultimately in their attack, and I think their head coach, Luke Robinson, said he was frustrated with their attack about how they played and what they offered. Yes, they did well in defence, but ultimately, even at 4-0, I just couldn't see a way that Huddersfield were ever going to win that game.
Yeah, they had one chance, didn't they, on our left edge, and we still managed to hold them up, didn't we? So I think Huddersfield are weird though, aren't they? Because they've got no reason to be doing as bad as they are, because they've got everything other than the fans. But like Salford, you watch Salford and you can sort of understand how they get. Well, there's things going on at Salford and the Huddersfield. There's just something's just not. I don't know. It's a bit strange, isn't it? But yeah, we have a look on that left edge, and then I think they sort of blew out, didn't they?
I tell you what, Carl. At half time, amongst the East Stand and around Craven Street and the West Stand and the North Stand, the big talking point was the fact it was only 4-0 at half time. The biggest talking point, though, was probably Hargreaves sin binning and the fact he went off for 10 minutes. And obviously now we've seen the consequence of that sin binning. It's a 2-game ban. It's a grade D charge. It means he misses the next 2 games. His next game that he will be available to play is a Challenge Cup final. What did you make of that sin bin, and what do you make of the ban?
When it happened, I said it's a yellow at the very worst, but they'll probably send him off because of who it is and how it looked. Looking at it again, all it was a poorly timed tackle, basically. He went in, but because of who it is, JW, he does go in aggressively. He goes in aggressively, but he kind of gets the timing wrong. And also English ducks his head, which is why it happened. English got the injury because he ducked his head. And that's why he went off for a head injury assessment, not because Warrior, it's 6 and 2 threes type thing, but no way in a million years should he got two-game ban, in my opinion. Because if you put it side by side with what the 𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 incident, and look at them, but how has he got 2 games and 𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀's got nothing? And I know they say, because he got a red card in the game, you got to give him a harsher punishment. But I don't agree with that at all. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Well, what was interesting as well, Carl, is the fact that he got the 2-game ban. And also it was based on the fact that the player had to go for an HIA assessment. And you think, well, how does that impact, just because he, the duty care to that player, that shouldn't impact upon then the potential ban for the player who did it. It should be just ruled upon the tackle or the non-tackle. The consequence of it is irrelevant, because what if he hadn't gone off for it? Yeah, it's irrelevant. And that's what I found really puzzling in terms of the wording and the sanction that was placed on JWH. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably done us a favour, because I do think he'd have probably been rested for one of the games. Do you want him to go into that Challenge Cup final a little bit cold? I don't know. I do think, though, Max, and this is only my opinion, and you might have something different, but he looks really fired up, Hargreaves, for that game against Huddersfield. He came on with it looked like he was on a bit of a mission to do something, which we've not really seen, because his aggression over the course of this season so far, Max, has been really controlled. We've seen glimpses of it in the derby, but I don't know why that Huddersfield game, he just seemed to be, before the sin bin, really on a mission to really make a mark on the game. And I'm trying to work out why, because really could have gone through the motions, play the game he's normally played already. I don't know what you reckon, Max.
Well, you think if he's going to get himself rowdy and ready for a bit of a bust-up, you think he'd save that for, Wembley or something, wouldn't you? If he's... Yeah. You want to... But yeah, the 10 minutes, right? You watch the replay, and I think it looked worse in full speed, but when you slowed it down, it was sort of hard to see what he'd actually done, because it just looked like more... I mean, if that lad done step, Hargreaves probably would have took his head off and probably killed him, but he did step. So it's all if buts and maybes in it. But I think the 2 games, and it's the point system as well, isn't it? So is it 15 points you can get? 15 points, and then does that then reset now because of his ban?
It's a great question, because I thought he'd reset. So once he's got the 15 point, then it goes back to 0. But
he'll get banned every other game now, won't he, if it don't reset? But he's got to win it. You'd think he'd have to.
Yeah.
I think the frustration with it, Carl, as well, is obviously, like we said, Hargreaves, he's been so consistent in terms of his performances, what he's done for the side, and then for him to go and do that. But also, when you look at some of the other offences that other players have committed, there seems to be an inconsistency. And I think there's only him and 𝗕𝗎senior who've copped more than a 1-game ban so far this season, which is mightily frustrating. But like I said, I think there was he seemed to be fired up for that game for whatever reason. But we've also got to compliment him on how well his discipline has been so far this season.
Oh yeah, 100%. A player like him, it's in him. It's like Mikey Lewis. Be a bit of a grub. It's in him, and you can coach and coach and coach. It's still in him. So he's done unbelievably well to get away, not to get away with it, but to curb his emotions, I suppose. And for the first 10 games of the season, still, in my opinion, what he did there, it was just an aggressive tackle, and he should never have got 2 games. What you mentioned about 𝗕𝗎senior, that for me was the most baffling decision I've ever seen in my life, that 𝗕𝗎senior one, to get 2 games. But then you look at the 𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 one and he got nothing. It just baffles me. Like you say, it's completely inconsistent, and it's the RFL, and I don't want to talk about them. It just riles me. It absolutely riles me. It really does.
Well, I'll tell you what, instead of talking about the negative, let's talk about the positive. And the positive was Rovers putting the game to bed, because once they got a sniff of points, they went for the jugular. Similar, I will say, Carl, to the Catalan semi-final at York. Once the Robins really thought, and this is great credit to the pre-season training. It's great credit to the assistants, the training that what they do in terms of their fitness, because ultimately what Huddersfield did is put everything in for 60 minutes, and then after that they didn't have much left, whereas Rovers just consistently went at it, and they reaped the rewards. And as soon as the tries started flowing, it wasn't a matter of will Rovers win, it was just by how many, and some of the tries were scored as well. One player though, Carl, who played a significant factor in that was the introduction of 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗂𝗏 and his powerful running. And it wasn't the first time he did the same against Catalan. He's done it previously. He's such a unit. I think he ended up getting the Man of the Match award in terms of the at Hull KR, and he's probably well deserving of it because of the way he impacted and changed the game round.
Is that for me, Johno?
Yeah, go on, Carl.
Yeah, just such a devastating runner, isn't he, 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗏? I said 10 minutes after he'd come on, I said he's going to be man of the match here, because every time he touched the ball, he was making God knows how many meters after contact even. He's just so strong. He is a devastating runner of the ball. He's absolutely fantastic. That was his best game of the season against Huddersfield on Saturday, definitely. And the thing as well is he always seems to be running off Mikey Lewis.
Well, I was just going to say, as well as 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗏 runs, he gets the ball at the right time in the right position, and it's great credit to Mikey for putting him in that position for him to be able to run onto it. I think there's great synergy between them. There really is.
And the thing with 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗏 is he's got pace as well. You wouldn't expect him, for a big guy like he is quick. Well, we all remember the try last season, don't we? When he ran it in the corner. He's got some pace for a big fella. He really has. He's got pace, power, strength. He is just a unit. He's a great addition to our team. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Max, what did you make of Mikey Lewis's performances? Because he, stats-wise, he was up there. 10 tackle busts, 3 clean breaks, 22 carries, 162 metres, an average gain of 7 metres. But I did hear some people, especially in the East Stand, and I think one of the frustrations is that sometimes when he makes these breaks, Max, sometimes he doesn't offload the ball or release it when he should do. Sometimes he turns inside, or he'll go the opposite way to where the runner is. Did you see that?
I mean, he did that. He broke the line, didn't he? And it came to the 2-on-1. I think it was. I can't remember what it was, but he goes to pass it, doesn't he? And I think everyone knew in that stadium, even the fullback, knew he was going to pass it. And I think that was the one time he's had where he'd have got away with maybe doing a dummy. But then if he does dummy it, he'd have got grief with everyone if he'd have been tackled. But you can't fault Mikey Lewis, can you? Because for every fuck up he does, he always seems to score 2 tries for it. So yeah, he might hold the ball a bit too long sometimes, but then he'll throw that cut out pass to score the winning try. And he can't. I mean, he does get annoying to watch sometimes because you can tell he loves himself a little bit. Which, if I was Mikey Lewis, I'd love myself and all. But he's a quality player.
Yeah, I tell you what, Carl. I mean, he gets it right more times than he gets it wrong, doesn't he? And ultimately, he was a player where not only would he not make as many breaks as what he's doing now, he maybe make the wrong decision, but ultimately he's making that many clean breaks, that many tackle busts. Ultimately, actually, it's a skill not to pass it sometimes because he sees the bigger picture in terms of being able to set that tackle at the right time, because that might mean as getting better field position. I think sometimes we saw Minchella, didn't we, a couple of games back, getting frustrated with him about, and I think he had a wear in his ear. But ultimately, he makes so many breaks that there's going to be a time where he gets it wrong, but ultimately more times than not, he gets it right.
Yeah, on that with Mikey Lewis, I think it was it a Magic? He did it at Magic. Was it to Mini? And I think it was it Mini again?
And that's when Mini had the go at him.
Right, yeah, and then he did it again in the semi, wasn't it? Because in the semi he cost me money, but that's by the by, and I was quite annoyed. But the thing is, when Mikey Lewis, dummied and went on those two occasions, we've won the game. Like I think we're like 20 points ahead, and there's 10 minutes to go or something like that, and he's aware of that. If we're level at that point, Mikey Lewis passes it 100%. He would have passed it. He's gone for the glory because he knows, it's a shot to nothing because they've won the game. And again, on the one against Huddersfield, I even said it at the time. I knew I seen him as he was running through, and there was like two players in between sort of him and was it Mini again? Yeah, he passed it to Mini. There was two players, and he shouldn't have passed it. And I knew. I said, "He's going to pass this," because obviously he's been told about these last two times. He's been told, not you pass it. And that was in his head at that point. I'm 100% certain. And even though he probably knew I shouldn't really be passing this because it's a tough pass because there's players in the way, but he passed it anyway. And obviously we lost the ball or whatever. So, but I think that's why he did that.
Yeah,
100%. It's 0-0 and he passes 100%. Mikey passes at 0-0. It's only because we were like 20 odd points. So you don't hold that against him. Although I did because he cost me money.
Max, what did you make of Jar Whitbread at second row?
I mean, Jar Whitbread's been quality, hasn't he? Last season and this season, he's been a bit outshone this season a bit by it. Well, that's probably because Hargreaves has come in, but still, he comes in and he does his job, doesn't he? Like every other player, you can't really fault anyone in this Rovers team, can you? Because you all turn up, do the graft, and then they'll go home and they'll do it all again next week. So you could pick anyone out, and I'm saying you struggle to find the weakest link. I think you want top team, aren't we? That's what the top team does.
To be fair, Carl, I mean, final point on the Huddersfield game, we had to do it a little bit tough, didn't we? Because we weren't able to rotate Litton as much as we might wanted to. Obviously, Leyland went off with a ankle injury. I mean, there's question marks whether he's going to be facing Warrington on Friday night because we're not quite sure of how his ankle injuries is stacking up. And of course, he's came in. To be fair, since he's came in, he's not played massive minutes, but he just gives Jez that chance to have a little bit of a breather. And also, what's been really impressive is when they've actually played together as well. So you can see 𝗲𝗂𝗱𝗲𝗏, and we're going to talk about it in terms of the looking at recruiting a new hooker for next season. So it shows Leyland is still a work in progress. I think 𝗲𝗂𝗱𝗲𝗏 has admitted he's not played as much rugby as a lot of people might think he has. And yes, he's playing now, but there's no way that he's going to be that necessarily next cab off the rank when Mickey McAlorum goes. That said, when he has come on, he's impressed a lot of people because of the speed he's played the game.
Let me tell you, Johno, I love Bill Leyland. I love him.
Is that because of the haircut or...
No, not that type of love. But you know what I mean. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And you watch him, he's a bit like Mikey Lewis in the fact that he's quite small, but he is as strong as an ox. He is so strong. Similar to Mikey. And I just think he's a fantastic player. What I've seen of him, before he played for Rovers, he is going to be one. I think he is. You said he's not ready yet. I think he is. I disagree with that. I think at the end of this season, he will be ready. If he's not ready now, honestly, I love him. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant player.
Yeah. Well, 𝗲𝗂𝗱𝗲𝗏, as said, Max are in the market for a new hooker. Of course, Mickey McAlorum, he already pretty much said, I mean, not that long ago that it was his final season. He's looking going back to Catalan, not to play, but to live there. So we expected Leyland and Litton to be the next foil. The fact they're in the market for a new hooker, I mean, there's obviously then question marks about who that will be, because are they going for a senior hooker? Are they going for someone who's going to complement Litton and Leyland by being the backup to them two? So that's an interesting one. That's for next season, though. Let's move on to Warrington on Friday night. But before we do that, let's bring Steve Till in for Robins Revisited. Steve, welcome back to the Robin Pod Weekly for another Robins Revisited. Of course, the Robins take on Wire on Friday night, but you're going to take us back in time to another game featuring these two sides.
Yeah, I'm going to just mention two games, actually. The first one very fleetingly, because on the main match we're looking at was on the 11th of April 2014, but the previous week Warrington had knocked us out of the Cup 28-24 at Craven Park. So we travelled to Warrington on the following Friday, knowing that we hadn't won an away game since August 2013 when we beat Leeds. However, Warrington had lost 2 home games, but it was with some trepidation that I went over there thinking, are we gonna be able to win this one? And things looked even grimmer after Adam Walker limped off after only 12 minutes to be replaced by James Green. However, my memory of the game was the performance of Mick Wayman. Soon after Walker's departure, Wayman finished his opening stint, and I watched him walking off thinking he looked absolutely spent. How wrong I was. The game swung to and fro in that first half, and it looked like it was going to be 0-0 at half-time. However, Wayman had come back on the pitch, and he returned looking as powerful as ever. And Travis Burns made a break. This was about 4 minutes to half-time. Travis Burns made a really nice break. And when he looked to his left, I think he must have been surprised to see who it was that was following up. But it was Mick Wayman. He gave the ball to the powerful prop, who promptly dived over under the sticks. So Rovers went into the sheds at half-time, 6-0 up. And we were thinking, maybe we can nick this, because although Warrington, as I say, it was a fairly close-run thing in the first half, Warrington hadn't in any way got over Rovers' performance, got over dominated it. So and so it proved, because soon after we'd lost Liam Salter. We had a few injuries in this game, and we lost Liam Salter 5 minutes after half time. But we doubled the lead when Burns pounced on a Chris Keating kick. It rebounded off some fullback called Myler and Burns added the conversion. It made it 12-0. That 12 soon became 18 when Keating swept over again from a Burns pass. So it was 18-0 to Rovers with Burns' conversion. And despite Myler crossing from a Ryan Atkins pass in the 63rd minute, Rovers soon made it 19-6 when Burns added a drop goal, 1-pointer. And then the big fella struck again as Wayman crossed from a Hodgson pass to seal victory before Myler ended the scoring with a second try. That was Warrington's 3rd home defeat. And for Rovers, the week after, we beat that lot, 21-20. So, yeah, it was a good period, those 2 weeks. But like I say, for me, the outstanding figure was big Mick Wayman.
Yeah, I suppose it's an impossible question to answer sometimes, isn't it? Because we always look back at former players and we wonder how they would feature in the current setup. If you look back at Mick Wayman, I mean, he was an absolute terrific player, wasn't he? And unfortunately, we only got to get a fleeting glance of him rather than a good hard look. Where do you reckon he'd feature in this side, Steve, if he was fit and would bring him back into playing?
He'd feature in any Rovers team as far as I was concerned. He was a powerful prop forward. Bit of a mongrel. He liked to get amongst it all, but he would tire the opposition out with his powerful runs. And, he had a bad knee injury, didn't he? But how did we ever see him run onto Craven Park without a bandage around his knees? But that added to his aura, really. He gave it everything. They say that the Aussies sometimes come over for a payday and don't give much back. But Mick Wayman gave everything back for Rovers. And it was a sad day when he had to retire from the game and return to Australia.
Carl, I'll start with you. Was you a fan of Mick Wayman?
Absolutely, fantastic player. I loved him. Like Steve said, very grubby, but I like a bit of grubbiness. You know, I was brought up in the 80s, you know, on my rugby, and I think you should bring it back.
I tell you what,
that was great.
Max, we're moving on to the Warrington game. What have you made of Warrington so far this season, Max?
I mean, Warrington, they always seem to be a bit hit or miss, don't they? They'll either beat anyone on the day, or they can get absolutely battered by anyone on the day. And I think if they turn up like they did last week against Wakefield, it could get daft. But I don't think they will. I think it was just a one-off last week. Because to be fair, they can front up. But yeah, I've lost my trail of thought. I forgot where I was going.
I tell you what, Carl, the Super League table doesn't lie at the moment, does it? Because when you look at where Warrington are, they've pulled off some decent results. But that one against Wakefield last time out, when many people thought, if you would have saw the scoreline at maybe half time, you thought Warrington were going to come back, and then no, Wakefield absolutely capitalised on that, and Warrington seemed to be a bit of a shadow of the side that they'd already been. I mean, that Challenge Cup semi-final victory over Leigh, did that paper over the cracks a little bit? I don't know, but it doesn't seem to be the Warrington side of old, and that's not a great side either, is it? Warrington haven't done well for a good number of years, but yeah, I look at Warrington, especially Friday night, and I think they're there for the taking, and I think they're there for the taking in the Challenge Cup final. I just don't hold the fear factor for me.
Yeah, they're our bogey team, though, aren't they, Warrington?
Well, there was, and then we went and beat them away, didn't we, last year? And we put that to bed.
But the other big factor, certainly for Friday night, is Paul Vaughan is injured.
Yeah, he's out. Yeah.
And he is there.
And also, Carl, he's looking doubtful by all accounts. Doubtful for the final.
Do you believe that? He's playing in the final. I'm telling you, he's playing in the final. But yeah, for Friday night, that's a massive plus for Rovers. I think we can go there and definitely win, especially with Paul Vaughan out. To me, all they've got really is Dufty. And
he's not consistent, is he, at the moment?
No, especially not defensively. But in attack,
he's rocks or diamonds at the moment. You don't know what you're going to get from him.
Definitely right. Yeah, I mean, I loved him in Australia when he was playing. I watched him, and he always played well. And like I say, he's really good in attack, but his defence is debatable without a shadow of a doubt. Sneed's playing, isn't he? But to me, Sneed, he needs a really, really, really good pack in front of him to do anything. Otherwise, you've seen it God knows how many times, when he was at that lot. Without a decent team behind him, he's a good kicker, but that's it. I mean, you never see him making breaks and stuff, do you? But yeah, for Friday night, I honestly believe we can win big.
Yeah, and if you look at their squad, Max, it's not just Paul Vaughan who's missing. Of course, they've got Toby King. Now he's missing, who's been so important for them. George William, of course, he's not playing. They're hoping, praying that he's going to be back for the final. So important to that side. Linked with the Dolphins in the NRL for next season. But when you look at the squad and you start picking players out from there, they look very, very weak. And what's interesting as well, Max, is that Willie Peters in his pre-game press conference yesterday said that he's not rotating the squad. So we saw, of course, against Huddersfield. We saw Peter Hiku. We saw Sauso Su rotated. Willie Peters said he ain't doing that this time. It's going to be the strongest squad available to him. Do you think he's doing it on purpose, Max? He really wants to go for the jugular, to lay down a marker to say, hey, when we play you in the final, this is what you're going to get?
Yeah, probably. You've got one, yeah. And they're not a crap team, either Warrington. They're a decent side. So if you go there and you go with a weakened side, you're sort of asking to get beat, aren't you? And you've got to play. I mean, we're rested, but I think it was Huddersfield last week, wasn't it? Not But when you're playing, I mean, they're a playoff side, Warrington. You'd be shocked if they're not. So you've got to play to win, don't you? Like you say, you've always got to play with your strongest side.
The thing is, Carl, I'll probably be posing the same question next week when we play St Helens. And that's a big conundrum, is it? I mean, I don't want to speak too much about it because obviously that's the next game. And I'm very much under the 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏 mantra in terms of the next game is the most important. So you don't want to look too ahead of yourself. But do you think, Carl, that 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏 will go with his strongest team? The caveat to that is sometimes they say, oh, we'll go with the strongest team based on who's available or based on injury. So they always put a caveat to that in terms of someone who might be rested. But do you expect to see any rotation? Of course, Doro's coming to the squad now on the back of Hargreaves' suspension. Do you expect any rotation, or do you think 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏 is going to go with his strongest, the strongest side?
I think he's learned his lesson in the last Wembley final. I was fuming. You know, when he rested everybody. I
think he's learned that lesson, hasn't he?
He's
fuming. Yeah.
But I'm a massive advocate for momentum. Like, you know, keep playing week in, week out. Get that momentum going. You have a week off. It kills the momentum. Like, I think he knows that now as well. And he's already sort of alluded to it in interviews and that he's going to be playing. He might rest Mikey Lewis against St Helens, or maybe 1 or 2, but that's it. He won't rest any more than 2 maximum because he knows he made a mistake. Now I think he made a massive mistake when he put that team of kids out of Wigan. It just annoyed me because momentum's massive in this game. Honestly, momentum is massive. You got to keep that momentum, keep it going, and don't take your foot off the throat type thing. Just go for it.
Yeah, my perfect scenario is if we could go into that, discount the Challenge Cup. If we could go into that League Leaders Shield title race without having to beat Wigan, that'd be the perfect. We've lost that now, and the danger is, of course, now in these next couple of games, depending on team selections, you might then give that up. But who knows? I mean, ultimately, if you could go, win the League Leaders Shield without having to beat Wigan, that's the perfect scenario. Of course, with their early season form, but I think ultimately over the next couple of weeks, it is all eyes on the Challenge Cup. Like I said, the big question mark as well is around Leyland, Max, and whether he's fit to play. If Leyland's not fit to play, or he's only able to do so many minutes, do you reckon 𝗏𝗏𝗏 he should keep him out there for as long as possible? Or do you think we should look at different options in terms of that hooker position?
I mean, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 now, if one of the problems we've had in the past is trying to put square pegs in round holes. If you can keep Litton on the pitch for as long as you can without trying to force something in, you do, don't you? Because you don't want. You want your players playing in the positions that they're playing regularly, don't you? If you can keep them out there, you do. But if you can't, you don't. Do you? No. Well,
yeah, and I tell you what, Carl, that Huddersfield game, when you look back at it, I mean, it's funny because I saw a lot of Rovers supporters sort of frustrated at in terms of the kind of performance. But ultimately, when you look at where we are in terms of this stage of the season, we've conceded 100 points in 11 games. We're averaging just over, I think, 9 points a game conceded, which is unbelievable. There's talk of it being if we carry on like this, a new Super League record. So this side is built on defence, and ultimately, what it's really good at is tiring teams out. We talked about it in the Huddersfield game, but that defensive effort is so important. And I don't think against Warrington we're going to see anything different. And I really think that this is an opportunity on Friday night against Warrington, a side who've done okay, but look at the league table, look at some of the results they've picked up. They've not been great. And I reckon this is an opportunity for us to put some big points on the board, which will help us ultimately in that league Leaders' Shield.
100%. This Rovers team, like I said earlier, this is the best Rovers team I've ever seen. And they play to a script. They kick teams into corners and they defend, and they can defend because they're the best defensive team in the league. The stats prove it. But they just suffocate teams. That's what they do. And like you said earlier against Huddersfield, really, we knew they were going to win that game because even at 4-0 in the first half, how much tackling have Huddersfield had to do? And they just didn't look like scoring because they never got anywhere near our line. I think they did once. But Rovers, they just suffocate teams. And they call it, you're in like the wash air, they just, that's how they play. That's how they're, that's how their mindset is now to play. And that is how they do it. And they just suffocate teams. And because like 1 to 13, they're all really, really good defensive players. Like, you look at 𝗬𝗲𝗏, look how small he is. He's unbelievable in defence. The same like Leyland, he's the same. And they're just an unbelievably good defensive team. And then they play off that. Like, when they've got the ball, they'll run at teams, and they've tired them out so much, they've suffocated the life out of them. And that's why when, a lot like on against Huddersfield, that's what happened. They were shattered, Huddersfield. You could see it. Last 20 minutes. Rovers are just an unbelievably good defensive team. The old cliche, and it's right. It is right. Defence wins games. And they're an unbelievably good defensive team at Rovers at the moment. What a place, what a place to be.
Max 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏, I mean, I want your opinion on what signing has been, because he came in against Huddersfield. Of course, we're not going to see him in the Challenge Cup Final. He came in, he's made 17 carries, 144 metres, an average gain of 9 metres. He's made 5 kicks against Huddersfield. Of course, he missed that one misconversion. What a welcome addition he's been to that side, Max.
Yeah, he's been brilliant, hasn't he? And he's quick and he's nimble, and he can also win us the odd penalty here and there with his crash helmet on. And he's like we seem to have been missing like an out and out fullback. But we had Evalds, didn't we? And Evalds left, and I don't think you'd have got a better fullback to replace Evalds than Morg. I mean, he nearly came in as fullback, didn't he? But I don't know how that happened, because he's never played fullback, has he? But that's being and gone.
Well,
right.
that's one experiment that I'm glad didn't work. I mean, Carl, I suppose. I mean, Max just mentioned Niall Evalds. Like, Niall Evalds was brilliant for us, wasn't he? But there's no doubt 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 is even better than what. And this is where 𝗀𝗧𝗏_Peters, I think, for me, just gets it. And not just 𝗀𝗧𝗏_Peters, but the people who do the recruitment, Lake, that old group of people, the recruitment. I can't think of one player who's left the Robin since 𝗀𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏s has come in where I've gone, I wish we'd have kept him. Don't get me wrong, and that sounds disrespectful in terms of the players who have gone, because I think they've all done a great job during their time, but no one's gone on to then go better than what they was already doing. And I think the Niall Evalds 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 deal is another example of that.
Definitely. Niall Evalds, I thought in his first season was absolutely fantastic. He was in everything. But this season, up to him leaving, I thought he did well, but he wasn't the same player as what from last season. He wasn't like giving as many assists as he was last season. I thought he was not going off the boil, but sort of slowing down a little bit in terms of what he was giving to the team, if you know what I mean. And when they brought 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in, I did have a few question marks, but having watched him in the Rovers shirt, he's been absolutely brilliant, and he gives us everything that Niall Evalds gives us. Plus, he can also play in the halves. He's got that ball handling ability. He's lightning fast, and to top it all off with the massive icing on the cake, he's an unbelievable goal kicker. I mean, he's missed hardly any of it, and most of them have been on the touchline. And that is what Rovers have been missing. I don't know what Martin's going to do when he comes back in, whether he's going to get the tee back, because 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's been unbelievable at the kicking.
Yeah. Great point to make there. And to be fair, hand in hand with Morg's kicking. Mikey Lewis's kicking seems to be getting better and better as well, isn't it? So at the moment, we've got like Carl said, when Reece Martin comes back, I mean, if them three are fully fit and kicking, it's going to be great competition between them. I think Morgan, Martin are obviously the forerunners for that, but Lewis, some of them kicks he's nailing now. Just shows you the confidence that he's got in terms of front of the post.
I don't think we've had that. I mean, the only reason a goal kicking became a problem is just when 𝗂𝗂𝗃 tried to take that kick in last year, and that was terrible. I could have done better than that. I mean, I've never missed a kick, mate, in my playing days. Never missed a kick.
Well, are you ever took one?
One. I took one. but yeah, I think even last season everyone said it'll come down to goal kicking, and it never did it? It never did. I mean, we've gone from one extreme to the other. We've gone from people being worried about we not having any kickers to now having too many kickers. But good problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is. I tell you what, that brings us to question time. Of course, as ever, on every Robin pod, we invite your questions, whether that's on X, Facebook, wherever that may be. So we're going to start with Paul Nelson on X. Would you rotate the squad ahead of the Challenge Cup final or play full-strength teams for the league games? For me, as wearing the chance for the league leader shield, we should go full-strength where we can. I think, Carl, we've probably answered that a little bit. I mean, full-strength every game, is that what you're in favour of?
Full strength, or maybe maybe rest one, maximum of two. Keep it going.
Yeah, I tell you what, Max, next question, that comes from Jack Houseman on X. He says, assuming May's leaving with 𝗂𝗲𝗃 already replaced, where would you look to strengthen for 2026?
I think your main target's another half-back in it. You need, or maybe another rucker. Another rucker's maybe in there as well. But I think an half-back's your main target in it because I don't know who else to play there. Obviously, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
you need.
Yeah, Don Kirby, she's a great advocate of the Robin pod. Great to see her asking a question. Says, what do you think of 𝗂𝗂𝗃's two-match ban, Carl? Seems convenient. He cannot appeal in case he misses Wembley. Are you a cynic? Are you reckon this is a deliberate thing, or do you think it's just, well, we talked about it, didn't we? We're not happy with it.
Well, Willie Peters' hands are tied, aren't they? Because there's no way in a billion years, especially we know the RFL, they're so inconsistent. He can't appeal it, because if they had another game on, the guy misses. I mean, it's his last season. Obviously, he wants to play at Wembley. He'll miss playing at Wembley. It's impossible to appeal. So yes, they've done it strategically, 100%.
Yeah, it was interesting as well. Golden, now she's asking a question on X. She says, Willie Peters was asked in the press conference about the number of play minutes for players this season reaching the maximum, and said, what's all that about? Well, don't forget, of course, as a prelude to the 2024 season, a recommendation was made from the Sports and Health Clinical Advisory Group to limit the number of minutes that players could play in Super League, and that's to reduce their potential for injury. Plays in certain positions as well, so props or wingers, or depending on where you played, they were supposed to be limited to making a certain amount of appearances or a certain amount of minutes. And Willie Peters, he was asked about that today, this week in the pre-game press conference. He was unaware of it because he's had nothing from the RFL. And then what was interesting was that Tony Sutton, the CEO, boss of RFL, he'd come out and said, oh, no, it's still a live thing. It's still happening. But obviously there seems to be a disconnect because who's monitoring it? Because obviously Rovers aren't monitoring minutes because Willie Peters was unaware of it. So the club are, and also it leads to, well, who at the RFL is then monitoring the minutes in terms of players played. So it's something interesting to play out. I don't think it'll affect Rovers because in terms of how they spell the players and the minutes, and also you've got to have a player playing for literally every game of every minute. So I don't think it's going to be something that affects the Robins. But it was interesting, wasn't it, Carl, in terms of hearing 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏𝗂𝗧's position in terms of something that's live and happening, and a head coach of the Super League team aware of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely baffling that. I mean, I would have thought if it was a thing, it would have gone out to all the coaches. I did hear of it at the beginning of the season, and I've not heard anything about it since until until I heard someone had mentioned it about why 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗏𝗃 and Sue had been rested. But surely, if it's a definite thing, it should be kind of rubber stamped and sent into all the coaches. That each player has to do X amount of minutes, so they can sort of adhere to it, so they know what to go by. It can't be just a thing that are thrown up in the air and whatever. Like if 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏𝗃 hasn't heard anything about it, then it's not a thing, is it? Because he's the coach of a Super League team. It's not like whether Fred Bloggs has heard about it or Carl Varley's heard about it, so that it must be a thing. You know? Well,
the interesting thing is, 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏𝗃 said, "I'm going to get onto it." He did say, "I'm going to get onto it. I'm going to get in touch with the RFL to see where we are." So that will run. I tell you what, guys. Every time I do the Robin pod, the aim is 60 minutes. And tell you what, we're getting better and better. The fact that we're under 60 minutes is that we're nearly there. Max, we've spoke about the game against Warrington. What we should do is give great credit to the club for offering £1 travel on their official coaches at a time when people are having to book Challenge Cup Final games. Of course, the announcement at Las Vegas. And let alone the fact we've had a Challenge Cup semi-final and people just wanting to go to games. It's a great gesture at probably the right time, Max.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because as of recent, being a Rovers fan ain't cheap, is it? So every little penny that you can save goes down well, doesn't it? So brilliant, isn't it? The club's finally giving us something back.
Yeah, and Carl, final thoughts. We're playing Warrington Friday night. Tell us what you're expecting and what you hope to come from that game.
I'm expecting Rovers to shoot out the barrel of 100 mile an hour and really go for it. I'm expecting them to do what they do every game: suffocate Warrington, absolutely suffocate them defensively, and put on a show basically. And obviously, we've got them in 3 weeks' time in the final. So, what better time than to put a show on, you know? So I think they're going to really, really go for this on Friday night. Singing a song when the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers.